Hello and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be multiplying and dividing rational expressions. Now, to do this, let's look at the steps first. For step one, you want to factor both the numerator and denominator completely, including taking out any common factors. Step two, you're going to write it all as one fraction. Then you'll identify and cancel any common factors that appear in both the numerator and the denominator. So one of the common factors has to appear in the numerator and one of the factors has to occur in the denominator. And step four, you'll multiply any remaining factors in the numerator and or denominator. So let's see what those steps look like. So in example one, we have x squared minus 4 over x squared minus x minus 6 times 3x squared plus 15x divided by 6x squared minus 12x. So the first thing I want to do is factor everything completely. Now, when I look at the second fraction, I notice that it has a common factor there of 3x, and the bottom one has a common factor of 6x. So let me take those common factors out first. X plus 5. And then the denominator, we have a common factor of 6x. So that leaves me, what, x minus 2? Okay. Now, what I want to do now is rewrite this where I've factored every single expression that I can. So for x squared minus 4, I could rewrite that as x plus 2 times x minus 2 because it's a difference of 2 squares. The denominator, x squared minus x minus 6, could be rewritten, I'll use x and x for x squared, 3 and 2 for the 6, make the 3 negative, the 2 positive. So I rewrote the first fraction where I'd factored the numerator and the denominator. And the second fraction I can rewrite as 3x over x plus 5, or times x plus 5, excuse me, over 6x parenthesis x minus 2. All right, so we did step one. We factored the numerator and the denominator completely. Step two, they want you to write this as all one fraction. So I'm going to make a really big fraction. So the numerator of my new really big fraction would be x plus 2, x minus 2. You don't have to put the 3x in parentheses, but for right now I will. Times 3x times x plus 5. All over. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. X minus 3, x plus 2 times 6x times x minus 2. Now, in a previous lesson, when we were learning to simplify rational expressions, we learned that if we have any number divided by itself, like 6 divided by 6, we get 1. If I have 3x divided by 3x, I also get 1. If I have x plus 3 divided by x plus 3, that is equal to 1. So what we're doing now is we're looking for common factors that we could divide out and get 1. So for example, x plus 2 and x plus 2, that would divide out to equal positive 1. So I'm going to put a 1 there. Let me grab a different color. This x minus 2 will cancel with that x minus 2. That would also divide to be 1. Let's see. Now, we have 3x and 6x. Those won't divide to be 1, but we do know, let me grab a red pen, that 3 goes into 6 2 times. And x over x is equal to 1. So this will divide to be 1. Okay? Now, step 4, multiply any remaining factors in the numerator and or denominator. So let's look what's on top in the numerator. We have a 1 times a 1 times a 1 times x plus 5. So the only thing that's left on the top, oops, I didn't want that. Let me change that to blue. The only thing we have left on the top is x plus 5. Now let's see what we have on the bottom. We have an x minus 3 and a 2. So this could be written as 2 parenthesis x minus 3. You might also see this answer written like this. Same thing. Okay. All right, let's try our next problem. We have 2x squared plus 12x over 4x plus 8 times x squared minus 4x minus 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor my first fraction. The common factor is 2x. So when I divide that out, I get x plus 6. And on the bottom, I can divide out a 4, which would leave me plus 2. My second fraction, let's see, this would be x and x for x squared. For the 12, I'm going to use 6 and 2. Make the 6 negative, the 2 positive. For x squared minus 36, we would have x plus 6, x minus 6. All right, so we did step 1. We factored everything we could. Step 2 is to write it all as one big fraction. So 2x times x plus 6, and then x minus 6, x plus 2. Over. On the bottom, we have a 4 times x plus 2 times x plus 6 times x minus 6. Now we want to look for factors that we can cancel out to equal positive 1. So let me grab a highlighter here. Let's see. Well, the first thing I'm noticing is that 2, change that to red, 2 will go into 4 2 times. So in other words, 2/4 would reduce to 1/2. Okay. The next thing I'm noticing is that x plus 6 and x plus 6 would divide to positive 1. So that would be a 1. Then I'm noticing that x minus 6 and x minus 6 would divide to equal positive 1. Oh, I see something else. X plus 2 and x plus 2 would also divide to positive 1. So that's a positive 1. Okay, I don't see anything else that we can cancel out. So now, step 4, multiply any remaining factors in the numerator and our denominator. So in the numerator, we have 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. So all we have left in the top is a 1. On the bottom, we have a 2. That's it. So believe it or not, all of this simplified all the way down to 1/2. All right. All right. Problem C. We have x cubed minus 125 over x squared plus x. Now, I'm not going to go over the how on factoring a difference of 2 cubes. If you need to review factoring a difference of 2 cubes, you may want to look that up. But for right now, I'm just going to say that the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of 125 is 5. So that's what the numbers I'll be using to factor it. So x cubed minus 125 would factor to x minus 5 times x squared plus 5x plus 25. Again, I'm not going to spend any time explaining my factorization. You may have to look that up on your own. Okay. On the bottom, we have x squared plus x, where I can take out the common factor of x, which would leave me x parenthesis x plus 1. Now, we have to be careful on this next expression, 4x squared minus 4, because there is a common factor of 4, which would leave me 4 parenthesis x squared minus 1, which x squared minus 1 is now a difference of 2 squares. So this would be 4 parenthesis x plus 1, x minus 1. All right, on the bottom, we have a common factor of 2. So if I take out a 2, that would leave me x squared plus 5x plus 25. I don't think that'll factor any further, so we will leave it like that. So 2 parenthesis x squared plus 5x plus 25. All right, now we're going to write this as one big fraction. X minus 5 parenthesis x squared plus 5x plus 25 times 4 times x plus 1, x minus 1. On the bottom, we have x, parenthesis x plus 1, times 2, times x squared plus 5x plus 25. All right, now we're going to look for any common factors that would divide out to be positive 1. So this would cancel with this and leave me 1. Oh, let me change the color on that. That would divide out to be 1. This x plus 1 would cancel with this x plus 1. That would leave me 1. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, the 2. The 2 would go into the 4 2 times. Do I see anything else? I don't see anything else at all. So now we're going to multiply what's ever left over. So we have x minus 5 times 1 times 2 times x minus 1. So on the top, we have a 2 parenthesis x minus 5, x minus 1. On the bottom, all we have left is an x. All right. Pause the video and try problem D on your own. All right, now on problem D, we have 4x squared minus 4x. So if I take out the common factor there, that would be 4x parenthesis x minus 1. And then on the bottom, we have a common factor of 2. So let me divide that out before I factor it. All right, so that would be 2 parenthesis x plus 3 x minus 1. So over here on the top, x squared minus x minus 6, I've used x minus 3 times x plus 2. And on the bottom, I took out the common factor of 4x, and that left me x plus 2. Now, writing it as all one fraction gives me 4x, x minus 1, x minus 3, x plus 2. On the bottom, 2 parenthesis x plus 3, x minus 1, 4x, x plus 2. All right, let's see what's going to divide to 1 here. Let's see, x minus 1 and x minus 1. That divides to 1. X plus 2 and x plus 2. Let me change the color. X plus 2 and x plus 2. That divides to 1. Okay, I see the 4x and the 4x. That divides to 1. Let me see if I have anything left. All right, so on the top, we have 1 times x minus 3 times 1. So that would leave me x minus 3 on the top. On the bottom, we have a 2 and an x plus 3. That's all that's left. So 2 parenthesis x plus 3. Final answer. Now, when we're dividing rational expressions, we have one extra step. Since division can be thought of as multiplying by the reciprocal, dividing rational expressions involves an additional step. And what that means, when we divide with fractions, we simply multiply by the reciprocal. So 15x squared over 6y to the 5 divided by 5x 8 divided by 2y to the 7 can be rewritten as 15x squared divided by 6y to the 5 times, now we take the reciprocal, which would be 2y7 over 5x to the 8. All right, so now I'm going to multiply the top. So 15 times 2 would be 30x squared y7. And on the bottom, 6 times 5 would be 30x 8y5. So here I see something that would divide to equal 1. 30 divided by 30 is 1. And then we're left with x2, y7 divided by x8, y5. And we can use our property of exponents to simplify that. So remember, on property of exponents, to divide like basis, we subtract the exponents. So 2 minus 8 gives me negative 6. 7 minus 5 gives me positive 2. And then we'll rewrite this as y squared divided by x to the 6. Problem B. X squared plus 2x minus 8 divided by 8x minus 16 divided by x squared minus 16 over 2x plus 10. So the first thing I want to do is rewrite this as x squared plus 2x minus 8 over 8x minus 16 times 2x plus 10 over x squared minus 16. So I'm just rewriting it as multiplying by the reciprocal. Don't do anything to the first fraction, but flip the second fraction. Now, once you've done that, you have a problem just like our front page, just like the front page. And on the front page, we first factored everything that can factor. So let's start with x squared plus 2x minus 8. We can factor that to x times x for x squared, and 4 times 2 for 8. I'll make the 4 positive, the 2 negative. On the bottom, 8x minus 16. Take out the common factor of 8. So that would leave me x minus 2. Our second fraction, 2x plus 10, we can take out the 2. That would leave me x plus 5. And on the bottom, we have x squared minus 16, which is a difference of 2 squares. And we'll factor to x plus 4, x minus 4. All right, now write this as all one fraction. All right, now we're going to look for anything that we can divide out to be 1. So x plus 4 would divide out to equal 1. X minus 2 and x minus 2 would divide to equal 1. The 2 could go into 8 4 times. Oops, I need that to be. Let's make that blue. So 2 8s, in other words, let me show you what I'm doing there. 2 8s would equal 1 4. So that's why I put a 1 by the 2 and a 4 by the 8. Okay. Now the x plus 5, I don't believe will cancel with anything. So then you just write down what is left over on the top. And on the top, we have a 1 times 1 times 1 times x plus 5. So x plus 5 is left on the top. And on the bottom, we have a 4 and an x minus 4. So 4 parenthesis x minus 4. There's your final answer. All right, problem C. First thing I want to do is rewrite this as a multiplication problem. So I'll rewrite this as 9x squared minus 1 over 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. Don't change the first fraction. Flip the second fraction, which would become x squared minus 5x minus 14 over 5 minus 15x. All right, now we're going to factor everything that will factor. So 9x squared minus 1 is a difference of 2 squares, and I can factor it as 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1. X squared minus 5x minus 14. I'll use x and x for x squared. I'll use 7 and 2 for the 14. Make the 7 negative, the 2 positive. So there's our numerator. Okay. For the denominator, 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. I'll use 3x times 1x for 3x squared. And for 2, I'll use 1 times 2, and I'll make them both positive. For 5 minus 15x, I'll take out the common factor, which is 5. And that will leave me 1 minus 3x. All right, so let's look for our common factors now. 3x plus 1 will cancel. X plus 2 will cancel with the x plus 2. Now, there's something specific I want you to notice here. We have, let me use a pen, 3x minus 1 over 1 minus 3x. Now, in a previous lesson, we learned that expressions like this do not divide to be positive 1, but they divide out to be negative 1. So we can still cancel them if we understand that their quotient is negative 1. So I just want to call that into attention, because when we cancel them, we're not getting 1, we're getting negative 1. So I can do this, I can mark them out, but I must put a negative 1. So let me put it in a different color there. They equal negative 1. So on the top, we are left with negative 1 times x minus 7, which would look like this. And on the bottom, we are left with a 5 for our final answer. All right, problem D. Let's first begin by rewriting this as a multiplication problem. So we would, don't change the first fraction. Do not change that first fraction. Change the divide to a multiply, and then rewrite the second fraction as the reciprocal, which would be x squared plus x minus 12. And on the bottom, 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. All right, now we can begin to factor everything. So I'm going to draw me a really big fraction bar, and I'll start with 2x squared plus 9x plus 9. So for 2x squared, I'll use 2x and 1x. For 9, I think I'll use 3 and 3. Make them both positive. Let me check that. 6, yeah, that checks out. For x squared plus x minus 12, I'll use x and x for the x squared. For the 12, I'm going to use 4 and 3. I'll make the 4 positive, the 3 negative. All right, now before I write down the factors for x cubed plus 4x squared minus 9x minus 30, I'm going to factor that over here, because you may not have reviewed factoring by grouping in a while. When we factor by grouping, we're putting it into 2 parentheses, and we're taking out the common factor of the first parenthesis, which is x squared, and that would leave me x plus 4. Then take out the greatest common factor of the second parenthesis, which is negative 9. Sorry, that wasn't a 34, that was a 36, which would also leave me x plus 4. Then I would get x squared minus 9, parenthesis, x plus 4. That's what we want to factor. So for x squared minus 9, I would have x plus 3, x minus 3, x plus 4. And then on my second, we have 2x squared minus 5x minus 12. So for 2x squared, I'll use 2x and 1x. For the 12, let's see. Yeah, I could use 4 and 3. That'd be 8 and 3. Yeah, so make that negative, that positive. All right, so now we have everything completely factored. So we're going to look for our common factors that we can cancel out. Oh, nice. I see a 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3. That's going to divide out to equal positive 1. X plus 3 and x plus 3 divides to positive 1. X plus 4 and x plus 4 divides out to positive 1. You know what? I should probably be writing that divided out to 1, that divided out to 1, that divided out to 1. All right, let's see. X minus 3. Oh, nice. X minus 3, x minus 3. So that divides out to be positive 1. Now, multiply everything that's left on top. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is equal to 1. On the bottom, all that's left is x minus 4. And that's your final answer. And that concludes today's lesson, multiplying and dividing rational expressions.